some pretty heavy stuff going on in Kazakhstan. And so I'm not sure if everyone's been following the news there, but we've had protests of surging fuel prices that have basically morphed into some of the worst unrest the country has seen in decades. And you have a whole bunch of crypto miners now caught in the middle of that. So there have been major internet shutdowns going on. I think there's like 3 days now that the internet's been blacked out there as a response to all of these protests. And Kazakhstan has actually become a major crypto mining hub in the world. When China shut down, a lot of the miners moved to Kazakhstan. And so without internet, you can't mine anything. So this has actually been a huge hit on the Bitcoin network. Apparently, about 15% of the network went offline when they lost internet, although internet has somewhat been restored. Some reports are saying the hash rate is only up to like 5% of what it was previously in Kazakhstan. So very interesting things going on there amid so much civil unrest. But I want to throw to the group for your take on everything going on there. Zach, I'll throw to you to start off with.
So big picture, Bitcoin can't escape the geopolitical realities in which we all exist. And I think that's something that's super interesting and that more people need to think about more often, right? Like we think of Bitcoin as this sort of like alternate reality that's somehow otherworldly and like isn't impeded or affected by political realities on the ground in various countries. And I think this is a perfect example where indeed it is. First, we had miners that migrated out of China after a mandate from the Chinese government. Many of them ended up in Kazakhstan. Now we have a major situation in Kazakhstan in which the Bitcoin network is feeling the pinch a little bit. It's going to keep going. It's going to be fine. There's a lot of distributed hash rate around the world at this point. But one can imagine and play this game of geopolitical reality affecting Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in a really meaningful and technical way, as opposed to just sort of the broader macro market stuff that we see on the price side. This is something that we're seeing in terms of the operation of this network being impacted, notably, 15% is not nothing, notably by the geopolitical context in a particular country, Kazakhstan in this instance. So I think big picture, that's what I take from stories like this. It's like, oh, okay, Bitcoin is part and parcel of this world, and sometimes that's lost in the chatter of what this can be for the world, but it's still situated in the world. So that to me is this story, good example of it, but an interesting situation unfolding in Kazakhstan for sure. I'm going to toss this to Jen for your thoughts.
Yeah, I knew that Kazakhstan was big for Bitcoin mining. I didn't realize that they were the second biggest country. And so this morning I fell down like a little bit of a rabbit hole and started thinking about like, are we going to see the next kind of mining migration, and where might that be? So in November, the Financial Times reported that the rise in crypto mining there was putting stress on the energy grid already, and the country was struggling to cope. And I mean, for mining really to be effective, you need cheap energy and political stability. So if we are going to look at where these miners are going next, even though this story says that this specific miner is planning to stay in Kazakhstan for the time being, where is that, and what are, I guess, the implications that come along with that? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But Naomi, I'll pass it off to you.
Yeah, I will say that Kazakhstan has not been happy about the move of all the miners there. So they've been trying to implement all these laws to discourage Bitcoin mining. They had new rules, including a law that would introduce extra taxes for crypto miners starting in 2022. They also have started talking about a potential de facto ban on mining in general. Now, Nick Carter, co-founder of Castle Island Ventures, he reiterated that point and said that's why it's so important that miners are increasingly locating themselves in politically stable jurisdictions. But what does politically stable mean? Because, it's not completely off the table that the US isn't going to come down hard on this. There are all kinds of hearings. There's a hearing coming up about, the economic impact of mining and all of this. It's not completely out of the question that there won't be those kind of taxes, imposed here, that there won't be de facto bans imposed here, that all kinds of things could happen. And on top of that, you've got FATF, who's this global organization dictating a lot of policy around crypto. It doesn't really matter which jurisdiction you're in, because an organization like that will really kind of be able to tap into any country where you're located. The same with, the World Bank, IMF. So, I mean, it gets really tricky. This may become a thing. Like, we had Amir Taki, who was the head of dark wallet, dark market, dark leaks, all of this kind of dark things we talked about on the show a little while ago, about how he wrote this manifesto, this really crypto-punk manifesto that talked about this split in the crypto world, this world of RegFi, this world of DarkFi. It may just be that the world of crypto increasingly just gets pushed underground, because this isn't going away, and it's far too valuable for people. People are seeing how the ability to get involved with financial tools, whether there are no barriers to entry, they're seeing how valuable that is. And so I don't think it's ever going to disappear. I think it's just going to increasingly become more covert, more private, more anonymous, and countries will increasingly crack down on all of this stuff. But we'll just have to see what happens here. It's a pretty interesting and fast developing situation.